At my 20-week ultrasound, he was measuring small, so less than the second percentile. Ever since that 20-week anatomy scan, they wanted to follow him very closely.
They were saying maybe this is just kind of a fluke. The due date kept getting moved around. We weren't really sure what was going on. And they were saying maybe it's kids come back from this sometimes. They go up and down. And then each time we'd go in every week, every 2 weeks, and nothing was changing. So we knew something serious was up at that point.
So they decided to take him at 37 and a half weeks. 30 seconds after being born, he started to breathe very heavily.
He started turning blue. He stopped breathing. And I don't really remember much after that. I kind of blacked out, I think.
Called in the nurse. They had to rush in, do a code blue. Was quickly discovered that he had pancytopenia. So he had no red blood cells, no white blood cells, and no platelet, and he wasn't maintaining them.
We were home for about a month when the shots all stopped working on his bone marrow, and it was like, all right, something's clearly wrong, even bigger than what we thought.
And we knew fairly quickly that we needed the help of specialists. So we transferred all our care over to St. Louis Children's Hospital, and we spent the next 4 months there.
He first came to our service, not necessarily to transplant, when he was 3 months old. He was referred for transplant soon after because he had bone marrow failure.
I mean, he had to get blood transfusions basically daily. So there wasn't much we could really do. He couldn't move around.
He wasn't growing very well. He was hard to feed because he has some digestive problems. His pancreas wasn't working because he didn't have the right cells in his body. He was at risk for bleeding, at risk for infections. He actually went through a couple infections as he was being diagnosed. He just wasn't thriving.
We did a full genetic scan, and that came back as being Shwachman-Diamond, which is a incredibly rare genetic disorder that my husband and I both carried the gene for that we weren't aware.
It is a combination of a pancreas that doesn't make the enzymes it's supposed to make that helps in digestion, and eventually they empty out their bone marrow. What was different about him was that he was very, very young. Subjecting him to a transplant when he's 6 months old, that takes a little more of a nuanced approach. But it's an emergency almost. When you empty out your bone marrow, you have to go to transplant. Doesn't matter whether you're 3 or 6 months old.
The person that we found, I've never met him, but he's like a hero.
Dear parents, I want to start off by saying that I can't imagine the journey and challenges that you have been through with your son as you have been battling by his side these past few months. As a father of 3 boys of my own, when I heard that your son needed help in this way, there was no way that I could have said no. I had signed up to put on the registry back when I was in college. It was definitely a surprise to be called seemingly out of the blue, but a welcome surprise nonetheless. You are deeply cared for and considered part of our family, though we may never put a face to these members. Blessings and happy holidays. Your son's donor.
You really need a hospital equipped to deal with everything that he needs. So you need to have a good blood bank. You need to have a transplant program that can do infants. You need to have an endocrinology team that can step in and treat a 6-month-old with diabetes. So you need to have a gastroenterology team, a cardiac service that makes sure nothing's wrong with his heart. So from every aspect of care, he's sort of seen multiple specialties.
We're just lucky that they're in a city that we're in, and somebody that they have the specialists and the doctors and the nurses and everybody that's so talented and we live 20 minutes away from them. It's so lucky.
Donor funding also helps a lot of the research that goes into these rare disorders. The fact that we know that transplant can help them comes out of research that happened on Shwachman-Diamond some years ago. Collectively, all these rare disorders come to a hospital like Children's for their care. And it's only because of the donors that we're able to take care of someone like Vincent. And Vincent's not the only baby. I just want everyone to remember that. You put all the rare disorders together, and that's a lot of patients that have nowhere to go if Children's doesn't exist.
hundreds of patients, thousands of patients, and it's hard to give people that care to make each individual person feel like this is the most important thing in the world. But, they really do it. So overwhelmingly grateful for that.